Now, as I indicated a week ago and 2 weeks ago, I'm hoping to open this meeting with a brief, and I'll try to keep it brief, depending on how much participation you folks get into it, could stretch itself out. Strategic discussion before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of how we deal with the resources available to us. Admittedly, this is a gimmick you see up there, but there's a serious side to it, in that there is an elephant in the room when we talk about this topic. You know, it says down the bottom there, I'm right there in the room, and no one even acknowledges me. This is not an academic exercise. We're not playing with monopoly money, and the decisions that are made end up having an impact, sometimes not a positive impact, on some of the citizens of our town. So it's important that we understand that Bill, and in this case that Bill is his last name, it's Tax Bill, is the elephant in the room, and we have to make sure that, I know we all know that, this is more to make sure we remind ourselves and let our constituents know that we're very much aware of that limitation as well. Now, I brought with me a copy of the May 6th town meeting warrant. The reason I did that is because it's convenient, because we had the charter review results in there, and the town charter appears as it exists today and as it's working, and the red writing is how it's working its way through the State House, and presumably we'll get one signed by the governor sooner or later when that process is finished. In the charter, somebody was smart enough to write in the very original charter, section 3.1, the legislative powers of the town shall be exercised by a town meeting open to all voters of the town of Sandwich. Now, why is that important with Bill up there? There's a perception out there that those of us at this table are the ones who feed Bill. Well, what the legislative powers of the town include raising, appropriating, and spending money. We can't do anything serious in that area without going to town meeting. So it's not the Board of Selectmen, it's not the school committee, it's the legislative branch of this government, which is an open town meeting, that makes the decisions on how fat Bill gets. Also in the charter, flip a page here, and it says, let's see, this is section 4.2.5I. It says, the Board of Selectmen shall annually review a long-range plan to project the future needs of the town and report on this at town meeting. For the last 3 years, we've been printing the Selectmen's long-range plan, a 5 or 6 page document at the back of the warrant. What that sentence I just said translates to is, we are required to have a plan, and we are required to explain that plan to the voters. Unfortunately, it doesn't say the voters are required to pay attention. But we still have to keep trying to do our best to explain what's there. And one of the things in the Selectmen's long-range plan, I think it's 2 subsection E, sub 1, says that we will adopt a long-range capital plan. The Capital Improvement Planning Committee, I think we should give them a little fancier name than the Capital Investment Planning Committee in this particular case, put a lot of work into drafting a long-range capital plan for us, and we adopted it last spring. And the next chart, if it's ready, Bud. What's up there is page 7, summary of prioritized large-scale capital projects. I took the liberty of adding a couple more things down at the bottom. I'm going to come back to this one, but it's a list we, the Board of Selectmen, kind of jumped the gun on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. We came up with a list and prioritized it before they actually completed their work, but they came to the same 12 items that we did, and there's some differences in the listing of priorities up there. You may recall that I was not a big fan of prioritizing them because they're all things we're going to have to deal with. We just have to create opportunities and jump on opportunities as they come along to address these things. I'm going to leave this chart for a minute, but I'll come back to it. This one says strategy options. For each of those 12 or 14 things on that list, I believe we should have a strategy. And the 4 options that I've listed up there are the ones that I've come up with, but there may be 2 or 3 more. One of those may be baloney, but I think we need to, together, or at least the Board of Selectmen has to come up with a list of potential strategy options for dealing with each of those big-ticket items that show up in the long-range capital plan. Now, I just used one word. Oh, I cheated. I used 2 words on the last one. The default strategy is study the issue, toss it around some more, decide that we need more information, go out looking for more information, and kick it down the road another year or 2. There are times when that's the right thing to do. One that we've tried a couple of times in my brief tenure on the board is what I labeled the home run strategy. It was 3 years ago that we went in with the omnibus bill to fix all the buildings in town, and
5. But
yeah, it was a big debt exclusion that lumped a lot of buildings together, and the voters said, "No dice, we're not going to do that." When we backed off from that and put in just the school roofs, they saw the relevance of that, and they said yes. And we went to, I think the library heat vent and air conditioning system was on that list as well, if I recall. And when we put that up as an individual article, they said yes again. But when we tried to hit the home run by taking care of everything all at once, it was just too much for the taxpayers and the segment of the taxpayers who showed up to vote to take that on. We tried another home run with the public safety building back in May, and again, the voters said, no, that's too much, too fast. So maybe there's a lesson for us in trying, not swinging for the fences when we put something up in front of the voters. There's a reallocation. I've had people look me in the eye and say, you've got all the resources you need, you're just putting too much of it into the schools. I don't agree with that position, but it's a strategy, and there may come a time when that has to be used in one sense or another. And finally, there's the one I labeled small ball. That's the blue pit and a walk and a sacrifice and a single between short and third gets you 2 runs. Take things a little piece at a time. Now, just for some examples, I'm going to go back to that chart. I think actually you can go forward or back to it. I'm just going to try and run quickly down this list and give some examples of how we might apply at least those 4 strategy options to this list of items. I am not in any way suggesting that we should put all of these things on the warrant next May. That's the reason we have 5 selectmen and a school committee is so, that's at about 14. If you count Richard and Bud, that's 14 heads are way better than 1. So we need to really think this through and decide what strategies we want to adopt and when we want to put things forward. So again, I repeat, I am in no way suggesting that we should do all of the things that I'm going to run through right now. I'm just saying we should consider picking some of them and actually putting them forward in the warrant next May and on the ballot if necessary, and they probably would be, because many of them go outside of Proposition 2.5 in the Thursday after town meeting. So just, I'm going to try and do this very quickly, and we can go back and have questions later or whatever. But in terms of public safety, what could we do with a small ball strategy with public safety? There seems to be a consensus building that a third ambulance crew or a third crew fully trained to do both emergency medical and fire is part of the build-out solution. So one thing we could do is put that, I think the price tag on that was a $1.1 million operational override on the warrant and on the ballot, and move forward with that. And it would make sense if they had a place to hang their hat down in East Sandwich, which is underserved right now. So I think the price tag on a modular substation was set around 2.1. So we'd look at a $2.1 million debt exclusion in this case to handle the substation in East Sandwich, and just stop there. Don't try to go further. Let the voters make the pace. If they want both of those things, they'll tell us. If they don't, they'll tell us that as well. Public roads and infrastructure, Paul Tilton's been in twice while I've been on the board, made a very good case last time for the need to invest $10 million in our roads. But the nature of that work is it comes in increments. There's a lot of separate different roads, parking lots, tennis courts, sidewalks. There's no need to put the whole 10 million up at once. And I think what we asked Paul to do when he was here the last time is come back to us in January with something a little less ambitious, and we consider putting that on the warrant. Water resource management. We could scare ourselves to death with that one. You know, whenever you see it in the paper, it's billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. Nell's out there, yeah. My understanding is there's 120 or so watersheds on Cape Cod. Sandwich has about 10% of the area of Cape Cod. Our neighbor, the Joint Base Cape Cod, is all sewered. We don't have to concern ourselves with any of the watersheds. There's 11 of them that flow off to the west and south from the base. I won't make you play a guessing game, but I'll tell you right out. Sandwich has an interest in 4 watersheds out of that more than 120, just 4. We have all of Old Harbor. We have all of Scorton Creek. The folks over at UMass Dartmouth won't release the data, but all the preliminary indications are that those are in pretty good shape. We raise shellfish there every year. No problems. A little trouble with bacteria sometimes. The other 2 are Papaneset Bay, which we share with Mashpee, and 3 bays that we share with Barnstable. We're a minor contributor to both of those. So all we have to do is respond when the time comes, and the time is probably, we've got this under study right now. We've got a good consultant group. They're going to come back to us and tell us what the bill is going to be, but let's not get excited about it till we see that. Beach erosion. We're paying for the current permitting out of community preservation funds. What we hear when we go with our handout to the feds is, where's your beach management plan? Well, we got one. Where are your permits? We'll have them soon. Where's the sand going to come from? We know where that is. I think we should appropriate money from the CPA account, a significant amount of money, but I have no clue how to set that significant amount until we hear from the Woods Hole Group as to what the total bill is going to be. Next set, municipal offices. That's one, I think Bud would agree, we can push that down the road a bit. It's something that we definitely should do. The wing school reuse, well, let's skip that one, go to school consolidation first. We've got the school committee here. They have a strategy. The strategy is to go from 4 buildings to 3. It comes in 2 phases. Phase 1 is STEM, going to happen next fall. Phase 2, they haven't voted on a date certain yet, but I hear that that's coming along well, and it's maybe fall 2015, fall 2016. But they have a strategy. The strategy addresses 2 big problems: declining enrollment, and out-migration of students. So what we have to decide in May is, are we going to continue to support that strategy, which I certainly think we should. We have to be careful not to pull the rug out from under them as they're full bore going toward something that's going to do the town a lot of good. Wing school reuse, well, they're going to surplus the wing school. It could become the Sand Hill School and Clark Haddad building on steroids if we don't figure out what we're going to do with it.
Confirmed? Is that confirmed?
I said they haven't voted on it yet. But, you know, Richard is, it's certainly gotten a lot of serious discussion in school committee.
No, I don't question that part of it,
Yeah.
you know, but you're right. That is a key part of a lot of the things that
Yeah.
we're thinking about.
The next step, once that vote is taken, is to assess whether we can really reuse the wing school or not. My intuition says we can, but if you haven't noticed, I kind of like to base my decisions on data, not intuition. So we need to get some data. The school committee votes that they are definitely going to surplus wing, then we need to appropriate some money to get somebody in that will tell us whether we can reuse it or not. We also have to be careful how we ask the question. If we get somebody in who makes a living building new stuff, and we ask, we can't really reuse this, can we? We'll get the answer that we asked for. If we hire somebody who makes a living reconditioning old buildings, well, they're going to give us the answer we'd expect from somebody who does that. So we have to be careful who we ask and how we ask the question. But again, I say right now all I've got is my instincts and some numbers. The consultant that we hired to evaluate what it would cost to recondition the wing school as a school came back with either $27.8 million or $28.7 million, I forget which. But as a school, pretty much doubles the price, and that was for the whole business, the 1927 wing, which is a, you know, there was no, the Americans with Disability Act was 50 years in the future when they built that building. Asbestos wasn't recognized for its evils, and lead paint wasn't a big item, so there's a nightmare there, and that added to the cost of reconditioning. I would say the maximum to do what needs doing there, intuitively now, but we need data, is $12, $14 million. That's a lot of money. But if that buys us a senior center, a community center, and consolidated municipal office buildings, it's a bargain.